Hello again, welcome back to my channel. There's a collapsing pile of cardboard boxes behind there. That was meant to be a tidy pile. I was filing away some folders of pictures and bits of writing and then thinking these boxes will tidy them away, but it looks like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Leaning Tower of Works in Progress, that's what we'll call that. I hope you're all well. It's been a weird old week in the UK. The world's gone completely mad. And the people causing chaos on the streets, I just think I'm appalled for all sorts of reasons. But there are places in this world where people are living in war zones and they have absolutely no choice about that. And the idea of turning a country where you're completely free and have all the advantages that we have in this country, turning the place you live into a war zone on purpose, it beggars belief. Anyway, I don't want to get political, but that's what I'm thinking about today. But I'm looking ahead to the weekend and Levy Pride, and we've been running about everywhere, up and down Levenshulme, and then yesterday into the gay village in town, dropping off brochures and taking photos of Jeremy with the people who work in all these different venues, bars and restaurants. And that was good fun, if a bit tiring, but it meant that we sat out afterwards on Canal Street in the best part of the day, tea time, when the sun comes slanting down between the tall buildings of the old warehouses where all the bars are. We sat by the canal, and it's very green, and it felt very villagey, and it felt like a very enchanted space in the middle of the city, somewhere that's quite run down because the city council has neglected everywhere, because they've been in power for 50 years and do what they want. So the city centre does feel a bit run down, in the same way that Levenshulme feels a bit starved of funding and help and the rest of it. But in the middle of all of that, there's this very villagey village where at tea time on a warm sunny Tuesday in August, people are just relaxing and having drinks in the afternoon and catching the last of this golden sunlight from yesterday. Not quite so golden today. It's kind of pearly and a bit cooler, which is, I guess, no bad thing every few days. But the summer arrived anyway, after us bemoaning it not arriving in June, and we had a very wet June. Anyway, you get a lot of weather chat on these videos. I'm sorry about that. Today I've got some time to myself, which is nice, and I've been reading Board Gay Werewolf, which I'm going to finish today, by Tony Santorella. It's very spicy and very witty. Lots of funny stuff about the way men are, straight men and gay men, and the competitiveness, the physicality of men. And it's amazing to have that written about so wittily. It reminds me of reading gay novels by people like Robert Rhodey back in the 90s. And he was keen to kind of comically document the gay scene. This is about fellas who are bonded in their werewolfness and want to create a kind of pack. And we've got the gay fella looking at these very rich, spoiled, straight men. And some of that gets a bit dull, actually, when they're training. I've no interest in all of that stuff. And I know it's still meant to be satirical and funny, but there's a bit much of it. And I got a bit kind of, when he falls out with that, when Brian, the lead character, falls out with his workmates, that was a bit upsetting. And I guess we are meant to think he's become a kind of asshole through his physical and mental and business training with these alpha males in the wolf pack. They work. He and his friends work in a restaurant, and it really reminds me of people I knew, again in the 90s in Edinburgh. The Blue Moon Cafe in Edinburgh was the gay cafe. and I saw some pictures of what Broughton Street and the gay triangle in Edinburgh used to look like in the 90s, when it was really quite bohemian, especially compared with how it looks now. And that's the kind of place I imagine these characters working. And I was pleased to see, skipping ahead to the end, there's an advert for the second book, and he's taking the same characters along with him to a sequel, and hopefully a series. Sequel is called Shy Trans Banshee, which sets up a nice pattern for the future. It's very funny. We'll have something with vampires next, I hope. So he's working in that region of paranormal romance that we've been so used to for 20 years or more, but they often are quite earnest, I guess, and usually written by straight women about gay men, which is problematic in some ways for some people. I think so long as it's done well, you can write about whoever you want. I never really believed in that, in the restrictive nature of some versions of own voices philosophy. But it's good to see somebody doing this urban shapeshifter werewolf gay stuff, but with a witty and satirical eye. There's a bit, and now this is where the book suddenly hits an upswing halfway through or more. They go on a hiking weekend. Brian and all of these kind of awful friends he's made, these straight white couples who want to go hiking, and they're very competitive. They're like so many bourgeois, upwardly mobile people in their 30s that we all know. Quite nice and friendly, everything's lovely, but with this steeliness of competitiveness and weddings and all that stuff underneath. And this woman suddenly decides that she's his best friend and will ask him the most rude and personal questions out loud to the group, thinking that she's got a fast track to his friendship. And he turns the tables when he gets so cross with her and he offends her by asking her something very personal back. And she flashes out with, "But it's different." And he says, "Why? How?" And she gives away the fact that she feels different to him. She feels, essentially, superior. He is a kind of comic character. And this is the problem with the old term. I think it's fallen out of use, fag hag. And he uses it on page 164. I kept a note. And it took my breath away when Brian feels that Sarah, I think it's Sarah, is assuming his friendship, assuming a level of bondedness that isn't true. He says that she, on day 3, Brian realizes he is a gay frog in Sarah's pot of slowly boiling fag hag water. That so rang true to me. Ineluctably being pulled into somebody's friendship because they've decided you are the type of friend they want. Now that can be the gay thing. It can be other things as well. And if you're a guileless person who looks for the best in people, you assume they're wanting your friendship for you. And it takes you years to realize that people have agendas, and like she does there, she wants a gay best friend and just assumes he's kind of an off-the-shelf gay best friend until he snaps back, as he should. And I find that really interesting. So many times I think I've been flattered into friendship by people who've come with ulterior motives. If you've published a book or two, people will come at you with ulterior motives, sometimes not giving a fig about you or who you are, but what they might get out of you, the connections you might have. Now, your usefulness is strictly limited, and they realize that eventually. And when reality asserts itself, these people kind of melt away, or they get cross because they've not had from you what they want. And that's happening here in the book with Sarah and Brian. It's just nice to read it being written about in this particular way. I love reading stuff that makes you gasp with recognition. That's the best kind of fiction. So halfway through, I was dithering over this, and it was all the long passages about training, and Brian was coming across as even worse. I was thinking, why am I interested in him? Suddenly, the book has asserted itself and what it's really about. And it's about fitting in and loyalties. And that's interesting, and friendships. So hopefully he's going to come to his senses and return to the city and his nice friends and make up with them. And have a nice sequel about a banshee. My coffee's not quite hot enough. I left it too long while I was messing about with those boxes, the Leaning Tower of works in progress. This came in the post. Somebody, I'm sorry I forget who mentioned it in my comments. It's a novel I hadn't heard of and a writer I hadn't heard of, Crystal Jeans. And this is a novel called The Inverts. 1921, a boy, a girl, a moonlit midnight kiss, a terrible, repulsive kiss. Bettina and Bart have grown up as best friends, so surely they will end up together. After all, Bettina is young, rich, headstrong, and gay. Bart is young, rich, charismatic, and also definitely gay. Any doubts are dispelled by, in short order, that ghastly kiss, a torrid encounter for Bettina in the school boiler rooms, and an eye-opening Parisian visit for Bart. So it's a kind of 1920s, 30s lavender marriage. I'm hoping from the write-up and the style of it that I'm going to get some kind of E.F. Benson, Map and Lucia, touches of Gatsby perhaps. There's world travel, cigarettes, champagne and casual sex, and Hollywood and Egypt, Paris and London. What I love about the idea of it is this making glamorous that era and making it gay, which it was, but the stories we often get are the miserable stories about the gay past. And it's good to dig out or to tell kind of romantic, ridiculous comic stories about gay people in the past, I think. And it's the kind of nostalgia you do get in things like Map and Lucia and Woodhouse, but the idea of turning those gay is very amusing, I think. It's very funny. And of course, if you look back at the past, they were gay as all get out. If you read Maria Reever's book about her mother, Marlena Dietrich, where she's, shagging, I was going to say Ethel Merman, I don't mean her, do I? Greta Garbo. How could I get those two mixed up? As well as, all the fellas. She has affairs with amazing women as well, and slips through the world, sometimes dressed in elegant frocks and other times dressed as a bloke. But the idea of the kind of sexual sophistication of those kinds of years between the two world wars is very interesting to me, I think. Anyway, so that's fun. I've got a bookshelf lined up there of things I've talked about on this channel, and they've fallen weirdly into a kind of rainbow formation. They're book jackets and dust covers are so colourful. They are rearrangeable into a rainbow in the week of Levy Pride. So that's quite nice. Serendipitous. I think that's it, really. I'm expecting more books in the post. Don't tell anyone. I have a box set of H.P. Lovecraft and his followers coming. Collections of people, of stories by people like Robert E. Howard and Arthur Machen, working in the kind of Cthulhu mythos. For some reason, that's pulling at my imagination in a particular way. I clearly want to write something about all of that. I think it's to do with a murder mystery novel that I started a couple of years ago, and it stalled a fifth of the way into it. And I think straightforward, cozy murders weren't enough for that book. And I think it might get an underpinning of ancient and monstrous horror that will come from a kind of marinating in the world of H.P. Lovecraft, perhaps. But as I say, this is the time in the middle of the year when I'm meant to be taking time off, although I've been working like mad. And the ideas come welling up like that one, sometimes ridiculous ideas. But I made a list yesterday of how many outlines I've written for either books or projects, and there's quite a lot, and how many things are finished and unsold as yet. I haven't gone out yet with them, and how many things are partially done. And there's quite a lot of stuff on the slate there, so it's quite a nice time to be sitting back from it and thinking about how the autumn and the spring are going to go. And thinking about the nice things I want to work on. Okay, bit blethery. Tomorrow night is book club locally. We're going to do Puffball by Faye Weldon, which, as you know, I read towards the end of last week. Spent 2 or 3 days in thrall to Faye Weldon and her hideous spoiled characters. They seem so naive now to look back at the 70s, the late 70s, and their concerns are just about living a nice life in the way they want to do it. Completely selfish. No real thought to the idea that there might be something else than just enjoying the life they want to enjoy. It's fascinating, really. And maybe it's meant to be a kind of expose on that kind of selfishness, but I don't know. I suppose that's the nature of being, as I was said at the beginning of the thing, bourgeois and upwardly mobile, and of a certain age, that your own success and happiness is paramount, is the only thing. Anyway, I can hear the cat shouting downstairs. He's come smashing back in through the cat flap. Together we watched some videos of somebody on Instagram who'd given their cat a tiny camera on their collar. And it was quite a vocal cat, so Socks was looking about to see where this cat was. Come on! He's quite vocal as well, as you hear. And I was looking at prices of these, and they're not too bad. If I could get it to work, I would love to put a camera on Socks' collar. He hasn't got a collar. That would be the next problem. Yes, Festa used to have a collar with loads of bells hanging off. Come on. In fact, maybe this wouldn't work because Socks wouldn't wear something around his neck. But I would love to be able to watch either a recording or live the adventures he gets up to when he runs around the streets. This one on the video was climbing up trees and all sorts. It would be heart-stopping. But it's amazing to see how they don't even pause. They don't even pause before they leap out into... it's not the unknown. They know they're going to find footholds in the world. Are you going to jump over? Are you? Come on. Pounce. Very good. Say hello to the camera. Look, say hello. What? What? What do you think about having a camera around your neck so we could see wherever you go and all the adventures you have? Not impressed by that idea. Okay, everyone. Thanks for tuning in again. Thanks for all your comments. Do click like and share and all those things. And I'll see you again soon. You take care. Goodbye.